take this to a big screen. We are live, and we're live coming to you through Magic Wizardry, and this is our focus, and we have a panel of guests with us tonight, and it's our round circle discussion, and our focus is literally going to be that of creativity, fanning the flames, pursuing creativity, originality, and the likes of. And we might even touch on the subject of AI and how does that serve us? Does it serve us? The good, the bad, the ugly. And so this is going to be a round open table discussion. And my name is Mario Morris, and we are coming to you. I have a pile of stuff here that I'm going to share with you tonight of my creative processing, if you like, as well as getting into discussion with our panel of guests. And we'll take it from there. But I thought it'd be really good to start this evening with a bardic tale, a story. Or am I jumping in too quickly? Perhaps I should let more people arrive. On that subject, I'm going to just throw it out there. I can see people is already arriving. I can see you in the background. You're viewing in, you're coming in. Do say hello. Come in and say hello to us. Let us know where you are. What part of the world you are. Come and say hello. Who's out there watching and tuning in? And like I say, we've got lots of stuff to share with you. I'm going to introduce you to a panel of guests before we go any further. And aha! Got you there, Jeff. I can see you there. Hello. Welcome. Good to have you. That's Jeff coming in through YouTube, I believe. Hawkey, Hokano. That's the name. I'm just reading out your email address from Sweden, and we got Jeff there from the US. We got CJ in the house as well from the US. We got Shell from sunny Cornwall, and we also got Veronica, and she's from Scotland. I'm going to bring on the panel and just, and here we have our panel of guests. That we might have a few more coming in as the evening progresses. And we've got CJ, very environmentalist, magician, storyteller, wizard, entrepreneur, magic man, and he's been our guest in previous shows. And sooner or later, I would like him to come back. Not to put you on the spot, CJ. It'd be nice to have you back as one of our guests, and we'll do another show with you. We also have Veronica in the background. She's currently blacked out, but that's the camp sticking. And we also have the wonderful Shell with her magical hat on. And she is an amazing hat maker. And this is one of those hats that she made for me, and it's a magical hat. It's a beautiful hat, and I bring this hat out on magical occasions, and it's literally is a lot bigger than it looks. And this is the thing I love about this. Look at that transformation in a moment of time, right there. But this is not an evening for my hat. This is an evening for storytelling, magic, creativity at its best. Creative processing. I believe we've lost CJ somehow, but there you go. Hopefully he'll come back in. I'm going to share with you something, folks, and this is to kick off our then 9 months later. Caradwyn gave birth to Taliesin. Taliesin is the bard of bards, the storyteller of storytellers, the wizard of wizards, the magician of magicians. And that's the story of Caradwyn in a nutshell. And The reason why I wanted to share that story with you folks, and I'm glad you're here, is there are many ways to tell that same story. And that story's been told over and over and over again. And it's a very famous story, literally called the story of the birth of Taliesin, or it has many titles even. It's over 2,500 years old. And out of all the bardic manuscripts that have been lost throughout time, this is one of those manuscripts that have been held, and you can actually see it today in Carmarthen. It survived the test of time. It also falls in line with other manuscripts like the Mabinogion and various tales like so. And the reason why I was sharing that story, it is a spin on the original story that my own one of my mentors, Eugene Berger, would do, and he would share a very different tale of the birth of creation through the eyes of Hinduism, looking at and it's a wonderful tale, a wonderful story. And yes, what we do here tonight, everything is aired. Creating our own original material is a challenge. It's a real challenge, and this is one of those things that I want to fan the flames around this evening. Particularly, again, to emphasize, on the street theatre and street performing. When I started off as a street performer, one of the things that was imperative was coming up with your own original show. And that was imperative. And that kind of has lost its importance as such, that we actually have a lot of acts that are generic in their very nature. They're very, and in some cases, they're actually identical from one act to another act, literally performing one after another, performing such things as cups and balls and routines as such. And it came as a result of the birth of the internet, that we suddenly were able to see a lot more material, a lot more shows, and a lot more material readily from one country to another, and be able to copy that material word for word in some cases and regurgitate someone else's show. There's a place for this, but when it comes down to the street, it's imperative that at some stage that we have to break away from these models and begin to create our. I have got people watching. If you just arrived, do say hello in the comments, and if you have any questions, do feel free to share. So over to my panel. Or would it be fair if I asked you a direct question? What creative processing are you going through at the moment?
I can answer that. From my perspective, I'm going through a period of perfecting my craft. So I've been writing for a very long time, but I perhaps was maybe lacking the confidence initially to step into my own creativity and to and I think that's part of it. Being original is allowing yourself to be fully creative without holding back. But I think even that in itself, the world that we live in, I mean, there's so many people that we not aspire to be like, but well, it is aspiring to be like that. But I think we live in a world where there's so much comparison. I think that people don't always let themselves just to let it go and just be fully creative. So I think that's really important to just let yourself be and to really home into it and enjoy the process, because it's an enjoyable process. But you've got to make mistakes along the way, otherwise you wouldn't learn. That's been my experience of it.
Yeah,
I'm really enjoying it.
It's CJ. I mean, you do very interesting magic, So in that sense, you do magic with a message, and so in that sense, would it be fair to say you're slightly spoiled in regards to having lots of material where you can put spins on it, if I'm making sense?
So, well, yeah, I mean, I'm very curious here. First off, I'll try to answer your question about Mario, but we have you as a spiritually motivated magician. We have Shell, who doing writing, but physically creative, creating hats. Lady V, who also helps perform, but she does other things, working with cards and writing books that I've read. So everybody's creative in different ways. And I guess one big question you can ask is, do you want to be creative for yourself, or do you want to be creative that other appreciate it, or do you want to be creative for other people that appreciate it so much that you can feed yourself? And that's can be a very, very different question. If I'm just want to write some poetry for myself and maybe I show it to one friend, but I just keep it in my little book, that's fine. But if you want to do magic to fill your hat, you've busked yourself around the world, that's having to be creative in a way that is both successful, because sometimes being duplicative and just completely redoing somebody else's cups and balls routine can fill your hat, and you might be happy with that if you just want to eat tonight. But doing the creativity and the necessity, I do environmental magic, and so my goal is to come up with creative ways to take magic and bring that together with an environmental message that inspires audiences. And so in some ways I am spoiled the way you're saying, because there's a lot of environmental issues out there that I know about because I work in the environment. And through Mario and through Jeff McBride's Magic and Mystery School, I'm exposed to a lot of magic. So you have these two sides, and then it's creativity is often just really connecting those dots. Oh my gosh, here's a ripped up newspaper that a magician can restore into a new newspaper. That's a great way to talk to people about recycling that everybody will understand, whether you're 50 years old or 5 years old. And so the creativity does come fairly simple for me because of I have a fairly direct mission. And so but I appreciate hearing what everybody else is doing. Authors, hat makers.
Yeah. I mean, Shell as well. She's also a storyteller. She's an amazing poet, amazing storyteller, an amazing all-round performer. It's a different discipline in that sense. That to a certain degree, different in the sense that your props are somewhat different. Wouldn't you say, Shell? That
Yeah, definitely, and that's what I'm so grateful to you, Veronica, for, and the time that we've shared together, because you've helped me learn so much. Whereas, I mean, when I first sort of met you, I was like, right, I've got all of this writing, and then I didn't really. It was this what I was saying about perfecting my craft to understand how to share it, because when I write, I write with the intention, that it's come from of an own personal experience of transformation in one way or another. So I always write it for the reader in the hope that they might feel better for it. But then it's knowing how to share that in an effective way, so that the message can be delivered effectively. And it's so inspiring to be here with you all and to learn and to grow. It's and to share inspiration is so important. And I think that's the beauty of magicians like yourselves, and you just share so much inspiration and you create unforgettable memories, and that in itself is a really beautiful thing. And I think, especially in the world that we live in today, bringing joy to others is just a really beautiful feeling.
That's thank you, Shell. That's I thank you, Shell. I've got because we've got creativity, and creativity, like we say, having what inspires us, what I remember moons ago when I was inspired by clowns and watching street theatre and street performing in real time. And when I watched these performers, there were several things that inspired me. And number one, there was going back to what CJ just mentioned. I immediately saw it as a passport to the world. I was thinking, well, if I learned these skills, I'll be able to make my money. At the time prior to that, I used to make crafts and jewelry and sell them on the streets. And this was a beautiful transition of stepping from that into street theatre, street magic, and literally seeing it as a passport of the world. But it also comes to the stage of we have our creative process. Is that process of becoming original. So if we're inspired by musicians, if you're a musician, you might be inspired by the likes of Beethoven or someone like Jimi Hendrix or whatever musician that you inspired. But it's that something explore our own creative sparks, and the sooner we will be able to fan those flames. I'm surrounded by props. I brought them all around, and I thought it'd be good just to share with you a couple of things. I'm going to share some of my favorite things that I've got with me. One of which, if you know this it looks like an animal trap, but it literally is part of the effect that I call the world's most dangerous card trick. The reason why I'm sharing that, there's a spin to this. It literally was performed by sideshow, still is, by sideshow performers, literally as quite a nasty stunt of putting your hands in it or various parts of your anatomy into it. Quite literally, sideshow performers would do some gruesome stuff with this, catching their tongues and really. And I looked at it, and it was a sideshow stunt, and I performed it as a sideshow stunt by literally put my hand as it was done traditionally, but it lacked magical application. It's a one-iron day. I came up with the idea. Just when you need a pack, I came up with the idea of combining a pack of cards, and in some cases, even tarot, a pack of cards with the world's with what I now call the world's most dangerous card trick, altered the traps, but that's a spin on and an effect. The classic that magicians aspire to is cups and balls, and I'll have these fancy cups, beautiful cups. And if I was to show you inside my bag, you see I've got 3 of these cups. My cups are coffee cups, and the reason why is because all my loads. If I was to show you, I can't give you a good on my bag here. If I was to show you inside my bag, yes, you got it. You can see my cups. Underneath those cups are my actual loads. They literally are hidden inside this bag, and they're jam jars, and I got a coffee jar for the headpiece. Everything I do, and this is the old school performers. We make our own props. My balls. I got these right in the middle of this ball. It's rather large now. Is a marble. I was going to say an alley, we call them in Wales, but there's a marble, and I just basically padded it out, stretched it out, wrapped it up in gold tape, and these are the balls I use in my show. The other, my wands. I make my own wands. I graft my own wands. Now, of course, I've got my own set of regular cups as well. I've had the Cellini cups. I've had the Gazelle cups. I've got my own little collection of cups. I've got the whole variety of wands. There's something beautiful about going out and foraging your own wand and making your own wands. Linking ropes, my own routine. These are the things. This is where I end up coming up with my own original spin. The pouch I use, you normally got the big savant that we wear, or the poacher's pouch that you would wear like a big apron around your waist. I never really liked that, and this is now fits on my table. I'll bring that into view. This table, the legs of this table fit inside my suitcase. And I normally have a shelf on my suitcase, on my table, that allows me to put my bag on the table. So it's snug directly underneath there, and I'm able to work directly out of that case. All of this is original, and the likes of someone like Cellini, if you were to read his book, beautiful book called the royal touch, I believe. The royal touch, this book, right? It's a beautiful book, but it really emphasizes the practice of being original, i.e. right in the beginning when he goes in, like how to make your table and how to make a savant, how to make all these things. And that really falls in line with my natural practice as a performer, as a magician, or what I think a wizard does. A real wizard makes his own things, right? Because we're in this creative processing. And what else have I got in here? Tablecloth. That was my whole justification for these breakable things. And you notice this was the tablecloth, a complete different spin on a very, very, very old classic. I literally am the first person in the world to come up with the spin that I have put on the cups and balls. And that is, everything is breakable. And I make this this promise that at the end, I'm going to attempt to pull this tablecloth from underneath these objects. And the objects grow and manifest, and then the table appears to be full. And it's a promise that locks my audience in. So at the end of my show, you don't have this anticlimax, the show is now over. You still have the promise. So I literally leave the world of magic and performing and circus and magic, if you like, and I enter the world of sideshow, where things could potentially go wrong. I'm going to share with you one more effect, one more effect, which literally comes out of the world of circus. And I need to give you a little bit of background in this, really. And this is, I'm going to be teaching this, not today, but it's one of those effects that I'm thinking of teaching, and it's a routine that's a staple part of my street show for years. And for over 10 years, when I first started off, I used to escape from straitjackets. That was my thing. And I had a wooden duck that had an extraordinary ability to read people's minds, and my linking rope routine that I still do today. And before I got into the straitjacket, I would introduce the satellite dish of doom. Literally, in this case, this is of doom, I would call it. And upon this tray, I would put a ball of cloth that I had bound by a coat hanger that was being doused in paraffin. And I would ignite this whole thing. This is back in the day when street theatre was real street theatre, no PAs, you know. And I would balance it on a pole. And this was an extendable pole that I could extend, and back in the day up to 10 feet. So it was really a large metallic object, if you like, high near on fire, as you can imagine. And if I timed it right, and of course I would have a hat up on my head. If I timed it right, I would literally flip the tray, and it would come down, land on my head. The impact of it would actually distinguish the flame from the on a good day. It would actually put it out, which was the effects would all turn into this smoke. Very messy, everything was messy. And as you can imagine, my straitjacket was white, not for long, it became black. So I eventually swapped out the flame for Rocky the Raccoon. And I swapped him out for Rocky the Raccoon, and it became the Rocky the Raccoon that could do all sorts of different stunts, and the great one could tickle him and wrap him around his nose and pull. That's how you do it. You use invisible thread, you see, and then and you would throw that to someone in the audience. They would do likewise. And there's all sorts of things that you could do, and he would end up in a hypnotic state, of course, sitting on the tray. Now this it swapped out the fire. I didn't need the fire anymore. It became very, very comical, very funny, getting great laughs, and then I would play the Dam Busters on the cassette. I still do this, and I still bring out my Stray Jacket show, and it's of course, and I would do this, balance on my chin. In fact, you can see it after this show. I'm doing this as part of the promo, and it coming crashing on my head. But again, the whole thing, the point of it is creative processing. Where do, as artists, as performers, where do we get off? Copying to creating. When does creativity, and this is a subject, a creativity, become original? And oh yeah. So it's I've got thank you. We've got a comment in the in I got a comment right here, and it's just going to show the comment. I think that's very much enjoying this. It's very very underserved subject, and in the realm of online context. Absolutely, absolutely, yes. Oh, can I still? Can you? Are you able to speak to me, Shell?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, I was just checking that you're live, and yeah, and I think CJ's just been he's got a call in, perhaps. And thank you for muting yourself for that moment in time. Yeah, and we're covering quite a bit of ground here. But the quote I just got right there. Sorry, let me know your name. What's your name there? And it is a very good realm and a subject I believe that we're touching on. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. It is very underserved in the realm of online content. It is a good comment.
Yeah, especially in the world of the right now we have AI, and I said I was going to just touch on this just as such, but AI has come about, and here's the thing: we have the good, the bad, and the ugly. I would not necessarily chuck AI out. Chuck the baby out with the bathwater is the saying, isn't it? I wouldn't necessarily, because I mean, in other words, if you go back to 2000, early AI, if we look at Grammarly, was an incredibly helpful tool, especially to someone like myself who's dyslexic. So as a tool, Grammarly was a really good functioning tool. And between 2000 and I believe early Grammarly is 2000, is it 2004, around there to about 2022, and now we've gone from it's taken on a whole different shape. We've gone from natural language processing to large language models. So, for example, ChatGPT and its abilities and the things that it can do with. Now, if I was to consider the good, the bad, and the ugly, I need to. Well, what's your thoughts on it, Shell?
So, my day job, I work in IT, and so I understand the benefits of it. From an IT perspective, but from a creativity perspective, it's something that's quite taboo almost, because I think that AI is almost, it can generate artistic content in such a short amount of time compared to an artist who spent their life working. They might spend their life creating a painting, and it's all the training and the mistakes that they've had to go through to create that piece of work. Then AI can just do it in an instant, and it kind of it takes something away from it. I think there's there's benefits from it, like, but one of my friends once said to me, because a lot of my work is all handwritten, and obviously in the day and age that we live in now, it's, everything needs to be digital, doesn't it? And he said to me, he's like, oh, just take a picture of it with AI. And I was like, really not offended, but I was like shocked. I was like, no, I don't want to give it to AI. And I think it's used in the right context. I think it can be very beneficial, but I also think that we're at a bit of a crossroads where, that it's going to start taking people's jobs. I think, the impact that we're now starting to understand that it's having on the environment, the amount of water and things that it's using. And I just think that there's so much that, on the face of it, it's like, yeah, it's, there's so many benefits to it. But I also worry that it almost takes away, like autocorrect, on your phone, it's like, it almost like, so people forget how to spell because autocorrect will just fix it. And it's kind of like, that's what I worry about with it, is that it's going to take people's natural ability to want to create something with their own hands, or to want to be able to, look up something, because, you can find the answer to anything in seconds. And, time is our most precious gift. And, there's that benefit of it, but I think there's just got to be a balance with it.
Yeah, I mean, the absolutely. In some ways, we have the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes down to these incredible tools. And for example, the good would be, I would highlight, it is an amazing learning tool, and it can, so in that sense, to achieve prior to AI. In other words, it's great for business development, and as a business tool, using it in business development. So in that sense, would I have put myself in a position where I could actually afford to employ the team? Would I be doing this show right now if it wasn't for AI? And hand on heart, I can truly say, no, I would not be doing this show. And that's not because I've got, as you can tell, I haven't scripted this. I haven't gone, it's not scripted in that sense, but I have organized this, and with the help of AI tools. And literally, I would have never employed anyone to do what I'm doing right now, as such, because I'm not in that position to do so. So from that perspective, I find it is an amazing creative tool. However, you've got the bad and you've got the ugly, and this is where, and I have used AI to produce posters. I have used AI but I became uncomfortable with it. I personally speaking, I became uncomfortable. I understood it, several different reasons, and the number one was it just looked corny. In my opinion, I'd looked at it, and at the end product, I couldn't help look at it, just going, that just looks plastic. It just looks unreal. And yes, you can make it look real, but it didn't look real. It just looked corny for one. And there was an element where I felt where art became divorced from the project as such. And it's a little side story around that. So, but someone else is using it. Fine, great, crack on. But I've chosen now not to try to limit how. And that's a choice that I've made. However, as a learning tool, as a creative learning tool, as a business tool, helping me develop my business, I still so it's getting that balance. And the bad is when it literally does, when I do not seek out a creative artist to empower them to empower me, and having that fair energy exchange is very, very valid. And there's the ugly as well. We can touch on that. We'll come round to what I consider to be ugly. I'm just going to say hi, Earl, in the States. Thank you for being with us. If you've got any questions or thoughts, you can chuck them in. And if they're relevant to the subject matter, we'll bring them on. We'll bring them on board. And oh, thanks for your help. Hanka, yes, yeah, you're still in the house. Thank you so much for your order. It was great, having you on board. I'm still learning how do you get rid of these? Right. Oh, didn't mean to do that either. CJ, you got any thoughts on what we've been talking about here? I think you're muted.
I should be open now. In terms of, well, it's interesting for me to hear about your creative process, because I think some of your creative process, just going back to when you were talking about your street theater, is sort of the necessity is the mother of invention, which I think comes from Aesop, that if you're performing on the street, you have to think about this, you have to think about that, and some of those things do push you along. But I also love catapulting. There's a difference between copying someone and making use of their creativity to have you become creative as well. For instance, Shell, you make interesting hats. I can imagine that if I put on one of your hats, I would think about a problem in one way, particularly maybe with that particular character. And if I put on a different hat, that I might think about something in a very, very different way. And that doesn't mean I'm copying you. It just means that it's a springboard. One person's creativity is a springboard for another's. And for instance, Mario, you did the thread there, and you and I are both familiar with Eugene Berger's version of that. So you didn't copy Eugene Berger, but you made use of his idea of using that trick, often just a trick that people do magician-wise, just to break the thread and make it come back together again to tell an important story. That was a neat thing from Eugene, but you told a very different story. So I love how you can, that everybody fosters other people's creativities and not necessarily copying.
No, and that's the process that we're looking for. That's the art of magic itself. And this is where ideas are born as well, where new twists on old classics or new effects are born and come about as a result of us exploring. And I had this beautiful badge that was sent to me once, and it was a thank you card that was sent to me, and attached to the thank you card was this badge, and it came all the way from Sweden, and the badge it lost in a fire, but the badge said art has no boundaries. And it was this literally art has no boundaries, and it was one of my real prized subject, items, because it's so true. Art has no boundaries when we're willing to explore and step up beyond our restrictions. And one of the things, again, that I have seen quite a lot of, and this is not, it's where magicians speak. To be creative, to be on the edge of creativity. Many moons ago, I used to say, why change what's not broke? Why change what's working? Why change my act if it's working? And there's a lot of merit in that. There's a lot of truth in that. And there's when your show is working, it becomes your signature piece. Why change what's working? But it comes a point when you start stepping out, when you start pushing those boundaries, it's a risk. That's when it gets risky. That's when you're now stepping outside of your comfort zone, and you're beginning to explore your creative processing again. And that's the reason why we want to step out of those safety zones. And I've seen it again and again where, because it's quite common, happens a lot on the streets, where you have street magicians who have almost identical acts, and in some cases word for word, and the one-liners are not working. The stock material that they're using is a generic show, and there's something lost in that process. And I understand how performers can do that, because the routine is tried and tested. It's a generic piece of material, so it guarantees that you're going to pay the rent at the end of the month. You're able to make a living from it, and it becomes so. As a performer, as a creative artist, you can easily become stuck in that place where we become reliant on the songs that we do, those generic songs that each time. Those, if you the classics of Simon and Garfunkel and Bob Dylan, and those classic songs that performers will often, some musicians will sing generically on the streets, because it's considered to be a worker, if you like. We have a very late arrival, but I won't. Hey Tom, having you
Hi,
on
Mario.
board. Yeah. I don't know if you got your time. We're almost wrapping up very shortly, Tom. But there you go. But I'm going to throw you on the spot, Tom. We've been talking about creativity and creative processing, and we've been talking about the likes of coming up with original material. And I know you are a creative individual yourself. In fact, you're doing a whole degree. You're on just that. Not only that, you're an accomplished magician, performer, children's entertainer. You're a puppeteer. You're a person who makes puppets, and you've made the and we've got some really great some old stories around that, the Punch and Judy show, and that's the way to do it, and the pros and cons of that. But Tom, can you have you got thoughts on creativity and creative processing?
Playfulness. When I'm at my most creative, when I'm starting a project, and I'm working on a mood board or a spider graph, and experimenting with what I want to do, it's just playing with the idea, and even if it doesn't go anywhere or I make lots of mistakes, it's all part of the same process. It's just having fun with the creativity. So if I'm working on a illustration project, it would be just looking at different styles within my skill set. So am I going to be using silhouettes, or if I'm making and just doing lots of different silhouettes, or if I'm designing a new puppet, just sketching different puppets, different styles, different characters. And it's just playing with it. And sometimes that play comes to nothing. Other times that playfulness will result in a really nice outcome that I can then take onto a more professional outcome.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Thank you for that, Tom. That's I've got a question here, and do you have elements of your show that because of your time changing sensitives?
I do for my shows.
Right. Yeah. Well, give us an example then, Tom.
Example, I do a professional Punch and Judy show, and since Victoria times, the part of the act has been that Mr. Punch would hit Judy. Over the last 30 years, well, 50 years since the 1970s, domestic violence has become more out in the public, and if you want a tradition to live, you have to move with the times. So in my Punch and Judy show, I've removed the male on female domestic violence. So I don't have any casual racism in my show. Throughout the 1970s and 80s, there were characters in there that were stereotypes of Chinese people, black people, and I feel like that is not part of who I am as a performer, and it's not right for a 2020 style show.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, well, that's brilliant, Tom, because we had great discussions around that. A couple of decades ago. No,
Yeah.
those. It was a hot potato. I think it was almost a bone of contention at one point, and seeing you going through that transformation and change. Wow, I you know what, Tom? I didn't know that. I didn't know you. Yeah.
Because in some ways, I've also left in the female on male violence for certain shows, because if I'm doing a talk on Punch, it calls out the hypocrisy of the whole domestic violence thing. For some reason, people find it funnier when Judy hits Mr. Punch, and then when Punch would hit Judy, cry domestic violence. So I've left that female on male violence in because it's a way that I can call out that hypocrisy which is there. I mean, the amount of thought I've gone into doing this Punch and Judy show now, and keeping it up to date, and it's also one of the reasons why I only have one female character in the show, because Mr. Punch still deals with majority of the other characters with the slapstick. But if I had a female doctor or a female police officer, he would still deal with that character in the same way. But I don't want that male on female violence in any way whatsoever.
I hear you, Tom. Thank you for sharing, Tom. As I'm glad it's good to see you. I'm just gonna. I think we literally have run out of time. CJ, he's obviously in his workplace. He had to go, and so I'm just bringing this up because I think this is a really important point that has been mentioned in the background here. So, what is your process? Can you map it out for yourself and us? One of the most successful writers in Sweden said something like, inspiration is overrated. I just sit down and write 8 hours daily. And there is a big pull, I believe, between the artist and the businessman. And the artist in me is very much is the one who looks for inspiration, who fans the flames of inspiration, and the businessman in me is the one who literally goes out and does 78 shows in 6 weeks, and and sometimes my work feels like I might as well, I can't get sausage. I'm thinking of Punch and Judy, aren't I? Cross-thread in here, but sometimes it feels like I'm producing sausages. There's a place for both. Here's the thing: I think sometimes the businessman can be too harsh upon the artist, and we need to give that room to the artist to express, to feel, to create, to step out of that zone. And for the businessman, that's the one who's logical and thinks it through. So I'm not answering it directly. I'm just giving good air to that very last quote that you've shared. And unfortunately, we have run out of time. I am going to wrap this up, but I really am thankful for coming through. Thank you for watching the show, and I think it'd be really good to get my head together with you guys at the round table, and we'll be brainstorming ideas together. Shell, thank you for sharing your ideas, and your hats has been a great hit. and it's lovely having so many great artists amongst us. But until next time, bless you all. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll speak all